Good evening, everybody. Today is July 12th, 2021. This is the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency. This evening we have seated Doreen Ryan, David Schmidt, Vice Chair Kristen Chantrell, myself, Gary Upton, and our Secretary, Phyllis Berger. We'd like to start with a Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We always try to be efficient and somewhat informal, despite sounding overly formal. The time now, the meeting started at 7:01. The time is at 7:02, 7:03. Do we have any additions to the agenda from, sorry, I didn't mean to not introduce Mr. Gary Gaishel, our town's inland wetlands agent and representative for the town. No additions, Mr. Gaishel, from you?
No.
And nothing from any members of the commission?
I had an addition. Last month we talked about the buses and where they park, and Gary, you were going to give us information, and also our ex officio.
Correct.
Could it be on the agenda?
We don't have any information as of yet, but we're looking into the whole matter as a whole. I've reached out to them already, so I can report on that under my report.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so is that enough for you, Ms. I don't mean to sweep you under.
Yep.
I mean, we
That's
can
fine.
make a motion to formally request the information if you want.
They kind of already did that the last meeting.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah,
So it's underway.
Yeah, it's investigatory at this point.
All right. Maybe we'll just bring it up again during the year. All right, you're good?
Yep.
All right. Public hearings. There are no public hearings at this time. Public delegations. This is couple key notes in here because I'm recognizing faces from when we did our site walk. Public delegations are a time when members of the public are invited to speak to our commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved wetland permits and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, meaning applications we have this evening before us, other things of that nature, those that are subject to decisions of this commission or a public hearing, so on and so forth, things that are in litigation may not be discussed at this time. Right? They can be discussed later, but not at this time. The members of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comments during delegations. So just want to make sure that we're clear on how that works. This might be a time where someone says, we've had before people commenting about mosquito problems and things of that nature that are completely unrelated to any applications. So that's item 4, public delegations. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak about anything other than applications or things that are on our agenda?
Yes, July 12th, 2021.
And sir, could you just let us know who you are?
I will.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I want to know that first. Hi, I'm Gary.
Oh, okay. I'll do that from now on.
No, it's all right.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Gosho, Mr. Upton, and other wetlands members. My name is John Bialawans Jr. of 61 Walnut Hill Road. I'm here tonight to bring attention to a wetlands violation on Route 161 near the pump house and Musterway Road. This violation is right in the open and within 10 feet of the wetlands that has never been marked. How did this demolition permit be granted without no other departments looking at the scope of the project? Did the building department do something illegal? This violation should have a stop work or cease and desist order put on them now without hesitation. This is a clear wetlands violation, plain and simple. Gary and I had maybe 2 major issues in the past, and he was always very helpful and was always doing his job when he was working with me. I finally realized after a while that it wasn't him that was giving me the problems. It was somebody higher up, and we know who's the next step higher in this in this. I do have some emails and correspondence that I already did with Gary. He did go look at the site already and everything else, but really what is irking me is that how this could be done and everything else with no markings. And if you do go out there, you could just go to the end and everything else, and there's a little bridge, and they probably about that far away from the wetlands. This wetlands is caused from the water spill off of the Musterway Lake and everything else. And it's just that I, cannot believe that this is happening and nobody else has brought this up. And I did, well, that's all I'm gonna say. And everything. But Gary has been working on this, so you could probably ask him what happened, but my opinion of this whole thing is that this is a clear violation of your regulations and everything else. And this should be a stop work order on this project and everything. I keep repeating that because, it's unbelievable. If you go out there and look at this mess, you would be very, very surprised. Because I know that property good. I know most of the north end of the Musterway Road, Walnut Hill Road, and everything else. So I know there's wetlands on that property because the woman that used to live there, I'm not reading off of this, I'm just verbally doing it now. I used to, she was an older lady and everything else, and I always used to bring her vegetables and everything else, but I used to cut her grass, and then that used to be a pond that back in the 40s and 50s that her grandkids and everything else used to swim in. It's all filled up now and everything else, but it's a clear mock out, a rectangular square out of stones that you could see that used to be like a swimming hole and everything else. But this violation is, in my words, really ridiculous to have it keep going and nobody's, is responsible for it. All right.
That's what we're going to do.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for bringing us to our attention.
Oh, thank you,
Appreciate
dear.
it.
I'd like to move to add this letter that's been handed us to item D under reports, so we can further discuss it at this time during this meeting. Do I hear a motion to add this to our?
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion.
All right. You can
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor of discussing this during correspondence? Aye.
Aye.
Doreen, all in favor, thank you. And again, just for formality, I've added that as a conversation point under correspondence because it is our methodology not to comment or question the kind gentleman despite potentially wanting to. We want to be procedurally correct. Blah, blah, blah. So moving on from public delegation, is anyone else in the, sorry, I'm just looking, I was looking at you, sorry, Sue. Anyone else in the audience tonight have any other correspondence? No? All right. Item 5, the acceptance of the minutes. Meeting minutes of June 14th, 2021, regular meeting. Are there any changes, additions, updates, oopses for name spelling that anyone's
Yeah,
caught?
my name's spelled with an I.
Is it?
It's with an E. It's supposed to be with an E. It's spelled with an I in the.
K-R-I-S-T-E-N.
Correct, yep. Minor detail.
It's properly spelled here.
It is, yes.
Awesome. Anything, did you have any comments, Bill?
Well, Gary had mentioned something about a silver certificate. I don't remember that discussion. Silver certificate? That was in the minutes?
I may have mentioned that the town was pursuing part of the Bronx for sustainability, sustainable CT, the whole program that we're involved with.
Oh, okay.
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
And you saw it on the minutes, and
Yeah,
you were
I was
curious
just
why it was there.
questioning.
Got it. I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
Any other comments about the minutes? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as they are?
So moved with the one correction of the spelling.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. All in favor of the motion?
So
Or is
he
there
has
any?
to second.
Second.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Not second. All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone's in favor, thank you. Next, moving on to our ex officio report, Mr. Daigle is not in the audience tonight. He will not.
Conflicting meeting?
Okay. Yeah, I think they were grilling outside or something. Was that them? It smelled good. I haven't eaten dinner yet. I was like, this is not fair. All right, so nothing from our ex officio. Moving on to item number 7, new business. We have an application of Suzanne P. Choate, is it? PE Design Professionals, Inc. for Habitat for Humanity owner to conduct regulated activities, including but not limited to construction of new property, single-family dwellings, and associated appurtenances. Okay, a property identified in the application as 99, 101, and 103 South Beechwood Road, East Lyme, Assessors Map 7.14, lots 43, 42, and 41. As I understand it, I'm no longer reading from the agenda. As I understand it, tonight's decision for us is whether or not we will need a public hearing on this matter. That is all that our decision is this evening, based to discuss, right?
Correct.
All right. And the same stands for the application for Mr. Charles Hand.
Correct.
All right. So, without any further ado,
I just brought an exhibit. Is there a better place to put this so that everybody can see it? All right. This is the same plan that was submitted. Can you guys see it? Just colored. So said application is, I'm here to represent the applicant, Howard Hale, who is also here with me. I'm Suzanne Choate from Design Professionals, registered professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Understanding that this is just a determination of significance, I'll give you a brief overview, not take up too much of your time. The 3 lots that we're looking at are about 5,000 square feet each, so they are small lots. There is an area of wetlands across the middle of the 3 lots. We are proposing, instead of utilizing all 3 lots, we're proposing 2 houses and basically utilizing the 3rd lot for mitigation area. This would allow a little bit less intense development and allow us to mitigate the wetlands that we are disturbing. The area of disturbance directly to the wetlands is about 0.04 acres or 1,700 plus or minus square feet. The mitigation is just about 1,800 square feet that's shown on this plan. We're also attenuating the increase in stormwater flow using depression, and we'll also take care of some water quality in that area. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. That's a really brief overview. Let me know if that was too brief.
I have a question, but it's more just the way that the minutes were written, because I don't know, I still read this, that it says the Habitat for Humanity is the owner?
They are the owners, correct.
Okay, but then, so are they the ones who are building the houses?
The applicant has an interest in the property.
Okay, of purchasing.
Do you want to answer that one?
Is that, am I allowed to ask this question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I may, maybe for the purposes of correcting the agenda, we'll correct it on there. The applicant here is Mr. Howard W. Hale. The owner is Habitat for Humanity of Eastern Connecticut, Inc.
Okay.
Ms. Suzanne Choate represents the applicant, Mr. Howard Hale.
and this is Mr. Howard Hale.
I'm Howard,
All
yes.
right.
So I'll correct the agenda to reflect that for the next.
Okay.
Yeah, I just felt that was
Thank you.
it was semantics, but I felt like it was confusing. So, yeah.
And the applicant is the one that would be interested in building the houses?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, and presuming, again, stop me when I go too far, that the property is selling from Habitat for Humanity to you?
Yes.
Upon approval of such type thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And both of the house, sorry, Phyllis? Both of the houses sit in the upland review and the wetland area.
Correct. They're small lots.
Okay. Are there septic systems or public
Sewer.
sewer? Yeah. Okay.
And sorry, just to orient myself based on this, the pipe, would that be on the bottom coming up or from the top?
I think that top
Where we
one.
saw.
This is, can you still hear, am I still being recorded?
Yeah.
This is the pipe here.
Okay.
From that we saw on Saturday.
Okay, got it.
Thank you for the site visit, by the way. Yeah, so the existing house
Okay.
was over here.
And could you indicate for us where the telephone poles were?
So one pole is here.
Hi. Yep.
So that, this is the pole that we said, oh, the lawn was,
Yep.
perhaps the existing lawn was in here.
And where is the property line? Is it on the line of that pole or past it?
It's past it,
Okay.
right? And then the other pole was right here.
Okay. And that's off of the drawings.
Correct,
But there's
It's
no
off-
development there from what I can tell.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is from the street. This was the area that looked very impassable.
All
Yeah,
right.
it was a little, it's quite a,
Yeah.
very,
Okay, so, Mr. Schmidt, you weren't there. Do you have any questions for us to, I'm happy to
I
catch you
don't
up
think
if you-
so, no. I have read everything over and I have it all here, but I did not walk, but I'm hoping to do so before
And
the
please
time
don't
comes.
take that.
No,
that
no,
wasn't
I
me.
know.
I'd hope you do the same for me. Fill me in.
If I have questions, I most assuredly will ask, but I assumed that I had time, and I did say that I was gonna go up myself and take another look, once I understood it and heard your thing. But there's time between now and the time we have to vote on this, so.
Well, tonight's determination.
Oh, whether we need, okay,
Public
you're
hearing.
right.
You know, my personal opinion is there's a significant amount of water that moves through this property. Clearly, that's shown by the fact that there are wetlands, right where the houses are going, and it's, just thick shrub. I can comment that I saw standing water next to the pipe on the gentleman's property to the left side of the development, as well as, yeah, right there, as well as saying that there was a fairly significant runoff in the road, but understanding we just had, 3 inches of rain? Yeah. You had commented, I think, Chris, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you had mentioned the 100-year storm, something about that?
There was it was based on 10-year storm. There's a basin or something, or one of the designs was based on a 10-year, sorry.
Correct. No, you're correct. I'm attenuating the volume of a 10-year storm in this depression
Okay.
for
Okay.
water quality and for, I don't want to call it stormwater mitigation, but it's, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion that I think this should go to public hearing just for the best interest of the neighborhood and anyone that would want to come speak. So,
And I second that motion. And any other discussion from the committee here?
Well, I was just wondering, how long has Habitat owned this property?
How long have they owned it? Howard, do you know?
it's only been a few years.
It was left to
It
them.
was left to them, and I'm right across the street from this property. And-
have you spoken with your neighbors at all?
Oh, yeah, a couple, yes. I mean, in chatter, I haven't talked to, well.
No.
Oh, no.
It might be
I
best,
know-
actually, you should come up to the mic and talk. If someone's sitting at home, watching channel, what is it?
22.
Actually, I don't even know. We'd hate for them not to hear what
Sorry
you're
to
saying.
introduce yourself on the
Well,
mic.
normally this would be, oh, it is on there. It's 22.
Yeah, my name's Howard Hale. I live on 100 South Beechwood, right across from the property.
And let me just remind you,
Yes.
we're just determining a hearing, so, everything that we talk about is
Yep,
part of the record.
I just letting you know I'm there, and I'm looking to clean up the area a little bit. It's quite a mess, and everything gets dropped over there from different people, so it's, and I'm not a developer or anything like that. I'm just living in the neighborhood, been there for quite some time.
Great. Thank you.
So can we take the vote on?
Yeah, if there's no other further discussion, I just want to make sure the gentleman introduced
I just
himself.
have
Doreen?
one more question, I'm sorry. And maybe you said it and I
It's okay.
was looking at the map, but the mitigation, is it, like, how much of the wetlands are you filling in when you're putting the houses, and then is it 1-to-1, or what was the?
So the area of wetlands that are being filled, basically disturbed, is 1,729, so 1,729 square feet, which is 0.04 acres. And the area of mitigation is 1,792 square feet, which is also 0.04 acres. So,
Okay.
you know.
And on Ms. Ryan's question, I would just let the applicant be aware that we have, on past approved applications, we've seen mitigation usually from a 2-to-1 ratio. So I would be mindful of that, which would appear to have a serious constraint on this desired outcome here. But I'm just telling you, on things we've approved, they've been 2-to-1, not 1-to-1. Mr. Gaishel, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, something to consider.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys, discussion? So we have a motion that stands for,
Did you want to set a date for that, in that motion? Or no?
what's our next regular calendar? Sounds good. Which is, should we say that?
August, should be August 9th.
At 7 p.m. on August 9th, 2021. We'll have our public hearing for this application. Well, we haven't voted yet. So that's the proposed motion. All in favor of this motion? Show of hands, please. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Everyone's in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next
Excuse me,
month.
could you leave that there? May I make comments? I'm an adjacent property owner.
We absolutely want to hear everything and more that you have to say. The time to do it would be at the public hearing.
All right.
I know that seems like I'm trying to give you a rule that's,
All right, but I could perhaps add something about that pipe that's at the north end that you
This
referred
isn't the
to.
time.
it would be best at the public hearing.
Okay.
I know that's annoying, isn't it? I hate
No,
it.
I mean, I'm old and retired. I'll
Yeah.
come.
Please come. Please come.
I'm old and retired also.
We want
so-
to, we want to know all about it. I just, it happens to us all the time. We'll have an applicant put in an application to modify a site, and this is something we're working on, where none of the neighbors know, and there's no signage, nothing's put up. It gets approved, and then the neighbors come in and look at us like, we're like, guys, unfortunately, we're volunteers, and we're just trying to help here, so we do absolutely want to know what you have to say.
I didn't know about it either until I accosted one of the people walking through my lawn. on Saturday.
We're used to that.
So
But
mailings
there were
will
so
go out.
many of you.
It's not a great job at times. You should, if anyone wants to volunteer, we need people.
Doesn't pay real well either.
I had a lot of fun with Mr. Russo.
We even have members like Mr. Don Fimister in the back kindly sitting. He's an agency member that wasn't here to get seated, and the guy's got to sit and listen. What a good guy.
Do you have any idea when the public
Mailings
hearing
go
might
out?
be?
August 9th.
August 9th, 7 o'clock.
August 9th.
Yeah, and the town will send out mailings to,
The applicant.
the applicant will send out mailings to abutting neighbors of the property to,
Statutorily, they have to send notice to the abutters.
Yep.
I didn't know we were supposed to.
You'll learn too.
We'll do that, yeah.
yeah, well, no,
I just.
officially, no, you don't have to do that.
So now that they've determined that it's gonna go to a public hearing, the next step is you send notice to the abutters as a public hearing.
That's
and
what
they
I
can come in.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are that's the process. But thank you for your patience. And as you can see, we like to be informal. It's really not very fun to do it the other way.
No, it's much better, it's a little more.
So moving on to the next item, we have application of Charles Hand, the owner. Thank you, sir, for coming in.
Thank you, we'll see you next month.
Don, get to sit.
Don, you want to come hang out?
Sure, man. Thanks, guys.
We've got a nice seat right here for you.
Should I just note for the record the time, Sue?
Mr. Fimister is seated at 7:25. And I saw you come in a second after you started.
No, it's like 10 after.
I felt bad.
I came from Farmington.
You can, when that happens, you can sit.
Automatically? Okay.
I didn't want to
And
be
the chair
rude.
would just pause, note the time that the member sat.
Well, it's good we all know that too, though. So that
Yeah.
if we walk in late, we're good to go. Just sit down and as long as
If Kristen was running the meeting, you could then hand it over to the chair, midstream.
Okay.
Oh, this is a great idea. I'm going to sit home
Yeah. come in
by
late.
my pool, wait for the public hearing part to start next week, next month, and show up then. Huh.
And then I'm gonna sit down next to your pool.
With me. I have a hot tub too, Dave.
Dave, I'll be on your boat.
What's that?
I'll be on your boat.
So
Wait
item
a
B
minute.
is the application of Charles Hand, owner, to conduct regulated activities for the construction of 2 self-storage units at property identified in the application as 18 Colton Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 09.0 Lot 11. It appears the applicant is not here.
Applicant is not here. For those that were on the site walk, I did have a copy of the plan. I think we noticed.
The applicant was also not at the site walk.
Who was?
The applicant was not at the site walk either.
I would note that the owner of the property was, he also was the applicant, he just didn't join us.
Okay.
He was there,
And
I
offered if
did
we had
indicate to him
questions.
for the record.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who we were, so at least he did know.
Dave, I was late to that part.
you were. You did miss that.
I was sitting in the car still,
You were.
even though it was the second one, you know?
But I guess in lieu of the applicant being here, I think we would note, when we looked at the plan, there's approximately, they're indicating 2 feet between wetland flag 13 in the proposed building, and then there's no flag, but there's another 2 feet between the first proposed building, and that's between flag 7 and 9. I'm guessing that's going to be 8, we'll just, it doesn't room to put the ink on the plan. So I think, based on that, just proximity alone, proposed grading for these buildings, the drainage, stormwater, this has to obviously get reviewed by the town engineer. There seems to be a bit lacking in the plan. That said, I can certainly draft up comments alongside the town engineers, send that out to them. As far as impact, it's right on top of the wetlands. So in my opinion, it seems pretty significant. There's a potential for significant impact.
You know, I think the application shows they're not putting any fill in, which I find hard to believe.
It appears to be impossible, based upon the slope and the water that's down there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they propose to construct the buildings based on this plan that we have.
Yeah, with all due respect, my comment would be that is not a comment from the agency. It seems to be a waste of our time to bring to public hearing.
Well, that's, I guess, where my question, do we, procedurally, can we ask for more information before we can determine if a public hearing is warranted? I don't want to lose the opportunity of a public hearing waiting for information.
Right, you have 65 days to act on the application, no public hearing is held. We have to make a determination if the public hearing is needed. The clock started tonight. You have 65 days to hold that public hearing if we're going to hold it.
So we have time.
So we have time.
We have time.
The other issue here is, I mean, we look at the regs, could the application be deemed incomplete? So this is, you know, it's so sparse right now, we just have the application itself, the fee, and a plan. There's no supporting documentation, there's no soils report, just sparse. So there's no stormwater report. I mean, I certainly can give the applicant the opportunity to provide that information before the next meeting, make a determination whether or not it needs a public hearing, or that it's incomplete at that time. I mean,
Could we
obviously
move
it's
with it?
significant.
Could we move?
Yeah.
Could we move with an incomplete application to not start the timeline for the public hearing, Gary? Like
Does
at
the application have to be complete in order for us to accept it? Or can we,
I believe the reg said it has to be complete in order to accept.
yeah, so if we deem it incomplete, then it's not accepted.
Yeah,
We have plenty of time to do whatever we
yeah.
want.
He can go back to start.
I mean, at this point, I would just say, right now, it looks significantly incomplete, table it. See if he brings in all the information, and then if he hasn't, then we can go to a public hearing. And that puts us in September, it's opening that public hearing within our 60.
I
But then
motion.
the clock is ticking as of tonight, right?
But if we deem it as incomplete, then the clock stops.
Right, so come August, if it's still not complete, it's incomplete, denied,
I'd like to make a
he gets to
motion,
resubmit.
guys. I'd like to make a motion to mark this application as incomplete.
And I would second that.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Unanimous decision. Incomplete application.
Can
Go
I-
back to start.
Can I ask a question after the fact though? Like, if we deem it incomplete, which we just did, then do you write the applicant and tell them what it's lacking so that they
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Okay.
I would presume Mr. Geisel will point them to our regulations and say, please take a look at our regs and what's required for an application and come back with more information.
Okay.
Right, Mr. Geisel? And I think for the application, it protects their interests a little bit more, because if we accept the application with its incompleteness, then they could really get tricked up with a public hearing sooner than they might want without supporting information. I feel that what we just did works in the interest of the applicant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on to item 8 of the agenda, pending applications, none. Old business, public hearing sign notice requirements. Mr. Geisel, we were waiting on a proposed bit of stuff to put in, and it does look like we have the text amendment here. So this notice, as I understand it, would only be for when an application is going to public hearing. Does a zoning application get signposted if it's not going to public hearing?
No, yeah, only if it goes to a public hearing do they post sign.
And the same thing stands for planning? Okay, so this would correspond with the same process?
Same process.
Okay, and this is verbatim the exact wording from our regs, our town's regulations?
Correct.
There are no changes whatsoever? Mr. Geisel?
We changed the word commission to agency.
Fair.
So the agency shall hold a public hearing that matches 25.3.3 of the zoning regs. Let's see, public notice is the same, and the posting of the sign is the same. And, the last paragraph we took out because it said notwithstanding the above sections, applications for annual special permit renewals in the CACD zones, we're not dealing with CACD zones, so we just took that section out. But everything else is the same in terms of the timeframes. Now, if you want, you certainly can require signage for those applications, for all applications. We can add that in.
I think,
I don't know that that's.
I think I want to stay with what zoning has.
Yeah.
as a beginning point at least, like we said, for
Yeah.
efficiency.
I mean, we have the flexibility to make a public hearing if we think that there's something that's questionable.
Mm.
So I think you're overdoing it.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody wants to put a shed, they're going to have to put a sign up.
Yeah. If it's within a wetland, I suppose, yeah, they would.
If there's no
Or
objections to this language, do you want to set this for a public hearing for text amendment at our next meeting?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve this and run it through the process we've done most recently for our 100 to 300 foot upland review. Sorry, that's elaborate. I don't mean it that way. I motion that we amend our regulations to add this text amendment here.
Well,
For a public hearing.
Yes,
we have to go to public hearing.
at our next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second from Mr. Schmidt. Is there any further discussion?
So is our next meeting going to be to approve this?
No,
Or
it's
part of a
the
public
public
It's
hearing?
a public hearing to discuss it.
You theoretically could, if you close the public hearing in the same night, if there's no more discussion, you could approve it that night, and then post notice, there's a 15-day appeal period.
In the event that someone's listening to this, or we are approving, or we're looking to change our regulations to have applicants put a sign up when a inland wetlands applicant has to have a public hearing to do something on their property. That is what we're looking to add to our regulations. It correlates with what zoning and planning does.
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Thank you. We'll take care of it next time. That was easy. Thank you, Mr. Geisel, for getting the text done. Reports. Chairman's report. I have nothing to report. Moving on, Mr. Geisel, the wetland agent's report. Do you have anything to report to us?
I do on the bus lot. So getting back to you, I did reach out to the town. The Board of Ed, they're looking into it. From my recollection, I do recall there being a permit for the middle school when it was built. But looking through what I've seen, I have not seen anything specific to this bus lot area. So that said, I don't know if that was encompassed in the previous permit for the school. We're asking the school to look through their records. In addition, I'm also looking for contact over at Yankee Gas, we're going to run the gas line and remove the split rail fence. There's remnants, actually, if you look close enough, of a white vinyl split rail fence. It's the sections that we're going back alongside of, it's actually only one section left along the existing pond. So hopefully we can get that back. It would prevent some of the parking. I did indicate I contacted Chris Lund over that parking, since the fence was removed, parking's been intensified. And it's just killing the grass, increased erosion potential, and so forth. Invited him to have a discussion about either improving the lot to a point where it better ensures the protection of the wetland watercourse, as well as stormwater management and vehicular movements in and out of that area. It is a school zone, and so there's those issues. It sounds like they're open to having that discussion. And the other option is possibly even just relocating the lot in and of itself, which probably may be more appropriate. So we have to find a place in town that maybe we could make a bell to them anyway, at a minimum. But yeah, if you think of anything, let me know. But we're racking our brains as well as where we can fit this in. I'm thinking the transfer station may have it's about a half an acre on the south side of the bins that might be possible to improve. It is within 300 feet of a water course. And then again, I don't know how that operates with the existing heat, if there's any limitations there. But it's a space that I think could accommodate those buses.
What about the police station? Is that a big enough area?
It may be. They're limited there because of the floodplain. Comes up and basically it looked like what they did is they just elevated the parking lot to come out of the floodplain when they built the original building. So, but if we can have a conversation with the chief of police, and if they're not utilizing the whole lot, maybe there is opportunity to park up there.
I would assume they'd want all the buses in one place?
That in close proximity to their fuel source,
Yeah.
which is right now their fueling, my understanding, is at Roxbury Road, which is interesting in itself, how they're a privately held company, and so we have some sort of leasing agreement, I'm guessing. I don't know how that's worked out, so I've inquired about that as well.
What about at the town garage then? Then it'd be right with the,
Well, that would be logical, if that's where they're fueling, right? I mean, the only people in there now is water and sewer, and I think Karen Scherer leases a portion of it. So that's where that's at, but we're moving that forward, so
All right.
there's going to be some resolution on it in the near future.
All right.
Great.
Anything else there for?
Yeah, I issued a permit for, since our last meeting, issued for 35 Rock Oak Drive for construction of a single-family dwelling within 300 feet of the inland wetland watercourse. I also issued a permit for 51 Boston Post Road. This is the old Rulus. This is for land alteration of approximately 13,900 square feet associated with the demolition of an existing building, paved areas, infrastructure, and construction of a 7,798 square foot convenience store with drive-through and fueling facility, and 8 multi-product fueling dispenser. The reason being is that I approved that is the 13,000 square feet is literally probably 280 plus feet away from the nearest inland wetland. So I felt that the level of activity is not that significant in terms of proximity.
But you said it has a fueling station.
It does, completely outside the 300 foot up the only
This is
portion.
on Boston Post Road?
It's going to be on Boston Post Road, right by the on-ramp to I-95. The whole facility, the only portion that actually falls within the upper review area is their detention basin.
But that could be full of petroleum spill, if there were a spill.
Correct. Well, I don't have a plan, I do have a copy of the plan if the agency wants to look at it. I can bring that to our next meeting.
Is this the place, so if you're going on Boston Post Road and then like north and you were to make a left to get onto 95, that building that has like the big sign that now there's a fence around it?
That's correct, that's the site.
Okay,
Oh,
it's
really?
been vacant for
It's all overgrown.
ever
and-
since I moved here.
Yes.
Okay.
weren't they going to put a Saturn place there years ago and it was turned down because of the wetlands?
I know they were putting a Saturn place in there because that was on the billboard. I don't know whether it was denied or
Still
it
might
was
be.
denied, or it was denied for. I don't know why that project didn't go forward.
My personal feeling is that's an application that should come before this commission, and it should be a public hearing. But that's my, I mean, it seems very questionable, especially a fueling facility with a detention pond within 300 feet of a wetland. And I know you don't like the 300-foot upland review area, but it's,
I don't dislike the blue area. I just didn't think it was necessary.
But
I thought that the regulations needed more standards regarding low-impact development. Standards of review for the area between the 100 and 300-foot area hasn't changed. So what am I to apply but the 2004 stormwater quality standards that we go by? So I'm applying the same standards. either
well,
way.
but if the detention basin has the likelihood of, if there were a pollution or a spill, to have petroleum in it, that is, would you say that's not a likely impact to the wetlands?
If it were to, I mean, again, if it were to, the question is, how likely is that to happen?
It happens all the time at gas stations.
Does it?
Often, yeah.
And I think there's a
You know, I don't
history,
know.
Gary, I think there's a history there of, being denied for I think it was the Saturn dealership because of the wetlands. And now we're going to approve it for
I don't know. I
Gas
mean,
station.
gas station?
Again, I don't know how, going back to if it was denied for wetlands, I would say it couldn't have been denied because there would have been no application. If the ultimate reviewer was 100 feet, it never would have come forward to wetlands. It would have been denied because of the tidal wetlands that are within proximity, because the Nyack River is downstream. The interesting thing here, all the drainage associated with the project actually is diverted through the drainage system to the state drainage system, which discharges into the Nyack River versus the inland wetland lateral brook, which is across the street. So,
As the gas stations seem to do.
Wait, so it's the cove there is tidal wetlands?
He's saying if there was essentially the drainage would turn
as
over.
proposed,
Yeah.
the proposed design is having a discharge into the state system.
So is the deep, would they be involved in this application?
I'm not certain, it depends on certain, if they hit any thresholds, I doubt it. I suspect just the zoning commission would do a coastal area management review because it falls within that area. So DEEP would be given a referral in that case, and then they would report back to the zoning commission if they'd come. In terms of,
And who's the owner, Mr. Gation?
Pardon?
Who's the owner?
Herb Chambers of East Lyme. The application, applicant was Noble Fuel. It was Noble something. Was the applicant. As far as,
I'd like to make a motion on this particular application. I'm going to clarify my motion and keep it simple. A few times, I'm sure. I motioned that this application be halted and it come before this commission for a determination on whether a public hearing should be conducted. I'm not saying that a public hearing should be conducted. I'm saying that we should determine whether a public hearing should be conducted. Just as we have with the past two applications, which were residents and new storage facilities being added on the, and I think we should most certainly look at our regulations to add that if there's ever petroleum on site, all applications in those cases come before us. I don't know. Anyway, that's not all. You got the motion part, right?
Yeah.
That was pause. Gary runs his mouth. So that's my motion. I know it's an awkward one, but do I hear a second to my motion?
Sure, I'll second. I'd like to see the history of that location.
You know, it seems unfair to the first people if they've been sent away. I mean, just on, not that that's a wetlands matter, but, you know.
I mean, it would be nice to see it being used for something.
Right.
but make sure it's the right thing.
So in terms of just some discussion, I do have something to add here regarding the regs. So section 12.12, any person receiving such approval from such agent shall within 10 days of the date of approval publish that at the applicant's expense notice of the approval in a newspaper having general circulation. Any person may appeal such decision of the such agent to the agency within 15 days. In this case, there's no one's appealing that, but it says here, any person may, the agency shall, at his discretion, sustain, alter, or reject the decision of its agent or require an application for a permit in accordance with section 7 of these regulations. That's what you guys can do, is you can sustain, alter, so it looks like you're going to sustain that decision. I'll advise the applicant that they need to come before the
Or
agency.
no, reject that decision. We want to reject it, right? We want to reject your decision.
Fair enough. So you may want to rephrase the motion to, yeah.
All right. So the motion, my motion, well, but the motion was seconded as it stood. So that motion needs to be voted on, unfortunately.
You can amend it.
Yeah, it's okay?
You can amend it, and then the second amends it.
Okay. So I'm going to amend it to sound, let's see. So the motion would be to, how did you word it, Mr. Gaisel? Just to make sure we align with 12.12 of our
Agency
regs.
shall, as discretion, sustain, alter, or reject.
So
it would be-
we're going to reject, the motion, my motion is to reject the approval of the application and instruct the applicant to come before the agency for a determination of a public hearing. Does that work for you, Ms. Berger?
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Do
still,
I have to second it again?
please.
I'm seconding.
Any further discussion? At this time, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion? Show of hands. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Mr. Schmidt is on board too. That's, everyone is in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thanks, guys. I know it makes more work for us, but I think it's the right thing to do.
That's all I have in my report at this time.
Okay. And the house was, how close, sorry, the other approved application was a,
Single-family house.
which is a approved regulated activity within the review area.
Well, again, it was outside the 100, but between the 300 and 100-foot area.
Hmm?
The entire house, septic, and all these appurtenances were all outside the 100, so I felt comfortable issuing that. They had proper EMS controls. So those are things I can certainly, I mean, I don't know how you want to move forward with these applications. I'm more than happy to send the copies of the plans out to the agencies. So here's, or maybe I can sit down with you.
I think it'd be wise just to have them kind of run through during our meetings really quick and just say, hey, do you guys want to know, like, where does it stand for you? Like, this is an application, X, Y, and then we could just say, Gary, we agree, go, send it. You know, like, the house doesn't sound as much, I would presume.
I mean, the houses, to me, they're permitted uses already.
But if we were reviewing it at 100, now that it's 300, we should review it the same exact way we did at 100. That's all we changed.
Right. And that's essentially what I'm doing anyway.
So you're approving the same way you would have before?
Correct.
Okay, understood.
Again, the regulations allow me to issue permits for anything in the outdoor review area. So I'm thinking, what work, I mean, in terms of the 51 Boston Post Road, reporting that, right, then you're able to actually do something about whether or not you think it needs public input. So this is like the first of the time that in my career here that's kind of happened. So this communication between agent and agency needs to iron out better. So
Yeah, if you want to let me and Kristen know about it, and if you think that, if that's okay for the record for us to informally say yes or no, we feel like we should, I just would want the public to know.
If it's something that I'm really stumped on, then certainly I would typically defer to the agency.
I welcome communication.
All right.
Absolutely. Anything else on the commission? So
I have a couple questions. We had discussed the, it's not gravel, it's topsoil across from the dump.
Mr. Weiss, where there was a previous,
Yeah. Is he selling the topsoil from there?
I saw on a Facebook post a sale for topsoil.
So-
I haven't seen any actually move out of there. I've just seen it deposited there, and then he's done some excavation work. Looks like he's been hammering away at some rock to get back into an area. I met with Mr. Weiss on site. I asked him if it was necessary to have this much disturbance for test pits. He assured me that it was. I said, well, I really don't think it is, but I mean, the cut that I was looking at, I accepted as, okay, you have a significant hill here you're getting through to bring your machine, but you have another driveway cut down the road. I was not sure what that was all about. He went on to explain how, I guess, the area just below this ledge was going to be prepped for a septic, so that's a lot of prep. I did talk with the Legislative Health District, and they are, in fact, working with Mr. Weiss on prepping the sites. My understanding is, I think 4 of the 5 lots need to be prepped. So he has still not obtained subdivision approval. He's only been before this agency.
So if he's selling that topsoil, that property is not a commercial property that he can sell it off of.
I've noted it to Mr. Mulholland as a commercial activity possibly occurring within the.
Well, you know, we had talked last time about violations, and, you know, if we're hitting up these other 2 people on Hester and Musterway, we've got to be fair to everybody. He's got a violation. He should be hit with a violation.
Violation for selling topsoil?
Well, it's right next to
May
Vernal
that
Pool.
zoning?
Hold on one second. May I interject?
Okay.
If you remember back on the record, and I'm not quoting it exactly, the large pile that was further back from the road was 103 feet from the wetland. Now this pile is closer to the road, and the wetland is off the right of it.
Definitely.
But the prior application, which we did approve, and remember he was here and we approved the application, was not to put a massive pile of dirt within the 300-foot upland review, which now fully would encompass all of this topsoil he's attempting to sell. So
Wasn't it 100? It was 100 feet back then.
Yeah, but now what he's doing would. Now he's selling topsoil and he's got a topsoil pile within 300 feet.
Which,
It's a new
again, we
activity.
need to ensure we have the right property, the right material. And
It's a new activity. Yeah.
Okay.
as far as the use, I would say as far as the use and sale of topsoil, I mean, we don't regulate use on this agency. We regulate regulated activities, which
Mhm.
are disturbances of the land. I guess you could argue use, that would be new, but
We said a 3-inch rainstorm. Did any of that run off? I mean, that pile's right on top of where the wetlands is.
I mean, it's got to be running off.
Yeah. So I would say that there's a would warrant a violation.
I can go back out, take a look, and try to verify where that pile is. I have the site plan here. He's got the loam pile that he had, obviously shown 103 feet.
Was I right? 103 feet?
I don't.
That back one, right?
It was further back.
That's
right?
further
This
back,
is
and
right
much
on-
smaller than this pile.
Yeah,
This
way
pile is
smaller.
So actually, this pile actually falls under 300 feet, correct?
correct. That's what
There
I'm
you
saying.
go.
Because it's a new pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It appears to be, and Mr. Weiss is a nice gentleman, but it appears to be a pretty blatant disregard for the regulations, after especially having a cease and desist in place, unfortunately. He's not making it easy for us.
So
Please ask him to make it easy for us. We don't want to have to be like this. Why are you making me be like this? Sorry, fat joke.
So I guess I can further investigate this to actually see if there is in fact a violation occurring. I could ask Mr. Weiss if he would update the plan, show me the location of this topsoil area. I can work with Mr. Mulholland regarding its sale, if in fact he is selling it. I don't know where the material came from, because I certainly don't think it came from the site.
Well, I was the one that forwarded the Facebook post that was forwarded to me by just a
And again, I mean,
citizen of
I
town.
looked at the picture and I wasn't certain that that picture was appearing here in town. It's a Facebook post, so.
I can say I checked and went and looked at it, Mr. Gaishel, and it was that pile of dirt. I live down the street, so I'm quite familiar with the dirt around there. I'm joking.
Right. So either way, but I can ask Mr. Weiss obviously to reply to the commission, I think, in some form or fashion. I think that
But why can't you just serve him with a violation?
Is he in fact in violation?
Well,
With the
it's,
pile? I mean, again.
it's not 300 feet from the vernal
Another
pool.
issue and hurdle we have to deal with is I required a wetland permit for a house on Whiting Farms Lane. Well, Whiting Farms was an approved 55 lumber community which got reviewed under the 100 foot, but because the house wasn't there, it's a new house. So I've been challenged on this one as saying, hey, you can't require a permit because I was already approved under the 100 foot. So the question here is he within the scope of work, within the permit that we've issued as an agency with this pile?
I would say if it, well, hold on.
Because
Gotta
if
get
it's a
the
new
lawyers
pile
involved.
outside can I apply the 300 foot upland review to his lot, to his subdivision?
Well, if it were process or crushed stone or something, I mean, right now, all he's doing is doing testing pits, right?
He's prepping sites, yeah, test pits.
Typically, you're not topsoiling a site until everything's built and done. Last time I did
So if
a
he's
house.
storing the stockpile there, is it just because it's convenient? He came into a bunch of topsoil, thought I'd store it on site, ring it with.
Well, there was a
And
process.
none of it came from on the site?
Now,
No, there was a
wait until-
processing machine there,
Yeah.
and there was stuff being trucked in.
And you can't even tell if there's a silt fence or hay bales
can't, yeah.
because the weeds are so high.
You can motion for a,
Sidewalk?
no, cease and desist if you like.
That's what I would make a motion for that, Gary.
Okay.
Is that, can you clarify your motion?
How about if you do that?
You would like me to clarify your motion. Ms. Berger, you were motioning that we issue a cease and desist for Mr. Weiss in the activities at his building site?
At his topsoil site? Was that area actually part of the whole?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have an address for that?
Across from the dump. That's what we all call it.
Transfer
Transfer
station.
station?
Yeah, sorry.
There's no
True, yeah.
address as of yet? 'Cause of-
And I second that motion, just to be clear. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I don't know. I'm confused because I feel like, I don't know, based on what Gary's saying, I feel like we need more information. Like maybe he has to go out there and look to make sure
That's,
that before we're actually issuing a cease and desist, and that are they truly in violation? Because it's this like, you know, do we go by the 100 foot? Do we go by the 300 foot? Because when we initially issued the permit, it was 100 foot, and now is what he's doing falling under that? And I just kind of feel like we need more information before we can issue a cease and desist. And,
I think, yeah.
It appears,
I don't know,
if
piss
you
off
drive,
somebody, but-
by, it appears the dirt pile's about 30 feet from standing water. And you can see it from the road.
Okay.
But you should go see that and not take my word. You
Yeah.
really should.
As part of his application, he has to tell us how much fill he's bringing in, right? I mean, that would be considered
Yeah, we had,
topsoil, right? Is it usually
Keep in
not
mind,
separate?
to what Doreen said, we can vote on the cease and desist, it can fail. That will clearly send a pretty good message to the gentleman. Mr. Gaishel will find out some things, and will probably take care of it.
what I would also note that with the cease and desist, we have to have a show cause hearing within 10 days. So if we hold the show cause hearing, he has an opportunity to come before the commission and argue why he's not in violation. So even if I'm wrong, issuing an order, he has an opportunity to dispute that. So, I mean, through this process, we will certainly get more information.
Exactly.
And you'll find out if there is a violation or not,
Correct.
which is what I'm juggling with is, so if we go ahead and issue a cease and desist, he's got to come in and prove he does not have a violation.
He has the opportunity through a show cause hearing. If he does not show or decides not to communicate, then we just continue to move forward with it.
Okay, I'm comfortable now.
Okay.
So taking it to a vote, we have motion that stands. All in favor of the cease and desist order being issued on Mr. Weiss. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Mr. Schmidt, you're with us too? It's 5.
Hands up.
And opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay,
No.
understood.
Oh, I'm opposing.
Oh, you're opposed to, oh,
I'm
sorry.
opposed to it.
Oh, sorry, let's clarify that again.
Sorry.
All in favor of approving a cease and desist? 1, 2, 3, 4 members. And then all abstentions, Mr.
Abstaining.
Okay, and you're
I
opposed? Okay. So the 4s have it, unfortunately.
That's okay. I just.
No, I understand your logic.
I feel like
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I don't have to justify myself, but
Yeah, but-
No, I understand
that's
what you're
good,
saying, but by
because,
doing
you know,
this,
we all have a different
we're putting
opinion,
down
and
on him
that's
to
why
come
we
and prove that
express
he
it.
does not violate. Apparently,
I know.
there's enough sentiment.
So
there.
I have another question
Also pissing
on,
them off
on
again,
the,
and-
I don't think
the
we're trying to
violation,
piss
Gary,
him off. I think he may
for-
be pushing.
Hold on, guys, hold
Hester?
on, let's slow it down real quick.
I don't know.
Yes.
for Hester.
Okay, well, the vote's been taken.
Yep.
I think it shows, if you pull it up, it shows 300 feet, and then later it shows 100 feet in that letter.
Yes.
So I was a little confused.
All right, well, it's within the 300 feet. In either case, they're, in my opinion, violation, only because they brought what looks like sort of concrete type processed material, put it right along the bank.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're just trying
And
to.
I've commented a few times to Jen about that. I think
There's
it's
a lot of
just a
activity
form
going
letter.
on
She's
there.
copy pasted and it's just getting.
And
They
what-
have not contacted me since I sent them the letter, so
Okay. Just as long
hopefully
as,
maybe the next week I'll get something back from them. Maybe in a short window, 2 weeks or so.
Show cause hearing for Mr. Weiss should be discussed.
Correct.
When would you guys like
Well,
to do that?
yeah, he's got the right to, if he doesn't dispute it, there's no hearing.
Can we plan it for the next meeting?
It has to
Or
be
is that
within
too
10
much?
days.
Doesn't he have to
10 days
request?
before
Oh.
meeting.
So, show cause hearing.
You explained it to him.
You know, would you be able to walk out to see if there's any soil that's actually running off? Because if it is, I want to take care of it sooner than later.
Right.
There's no Mylars up or anything?
Pardon?
No Mylars up or anything?
Yeah, there's still installed
there is?
on the site.
Okay.
I've been out to inspect that, actually, after it went in.
Yeah, for sure.
But around these new stockpile areas, which I don't believe I saw.
I don't know there's any around the pile.
Stockpile.
it's right next to the road.
I don't think anyone would care about the pile if it were 100 feet the other way.
But
It's the location.
They
of
couldn't
where
have put it in a
is.
worse spot.
I know.
It is blatantly a problem.
And then I heard you say it was like 30 feet from the pond area.
It's, you know, right, there's the fire extinguisher, I went and looked, fire extinguisher, all the riprap on the side of the road. I think there was a trailer that's now been moved. There was the processing unit that he was using that was making all these little piles.
Yep.
And the pile he chose to put the nice, well, I'm sure it's clean, it looks like beautiful soil, is right next to the wetlands that we had up front, where you can see the water.
Right, okay, so it's on that side.
So the people call, oh, what's going on? It's like, they're doing it again. It's like, stop, you know, I used to live over there, so all the people that live there, they're calling my phone, bugging me, and I'm like, call
you
Mr.
have-
Gaishel.
The old plans?
Yeah, I have the plan, I brought the plan with me. So they come up.
Can I see it?
Do we need to set a date?
If you want, I will either coincide it with our next regular scheduled meeting.
But that's not 10 days.
Is it 10 days from now or 10 days from the day he applies for a show cause hearing?
The day of the letter. So when I type this thing up, I'll specify the letter and then he can receive it. Technically, I believe 10 days from the date. So when he signs for the certified mail. Now, if he doesn't pick up the certified mail, that could be a problem. And I'll just keep going with enforcement and get the attorney.
So you can actually set it up so
Pile
it's
is
the
right.
next meeting?
Correct.
Versus-
I'll
This
just
is
send
the
it
old
out
one pack.
30th.
Well, the
All
pilot's
right,
there.
so that's
now.
to be
It
clear,
is
we're going to
huge.
set up the
It's
show
right
cause
here.
hearing for the
Oh,
next
okay.
meeting.
You
All
can't
right.
miss it.
Okay.
And let's
It's-
talk about the
it's
order
as
of the
big as
agenda
your
before we
house,
post it,
probably.
so that we can keep
It's
it
big.
easy on everybody.
Okay.
It's huge.
And there's obvious wetlands very close by.
And if
Down
this
in
is,
it.
is this the 300?
I'll
Or
go out,
100?
I'll take a look at that.
That's the 100.
Photographs.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's in there.
Yes, I was forgetting that this was here. I was thinking.
Looking at
No,
the
this-
itself,
part.
it's very general.
And
Forgot there
there's a
was this.
lot going on all over. There's stuff, he's doing a lot of stuff. Moving of stuff and machines. and-
Just for the record, there's a little bit of discussion over here. You guys are just talking about the
plan.
approved plans. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would add that if you stood on the top of the pile and you dropped a baseball, it would roll down and go plunk into the wetlands.
I think I missed this pile. I don't.
It's
Maybe a
hard to
basketball.
believe
I
that
don't
they
think a
did that.
baseball would roll. It would get stuck.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true.
it's humongous.
Yeah.
After a
It's
good
hard to
rain.
I
guess.
think the last time I was down in Roxbury, I think it was.
It's been there like at least 3 weeks, if not more.
All right, well,
It's been there a while.
Yeah.
Let's move on here. Any other enforcement
I'm a frequent flyer
conversation?
at the transfer station.
Any
Are
other
we-
enforcement?
Are we allowed to talk about the cease and desist that went out? Or no? That,
This is for,
I was just curious, like I read through
The
the
previous cease and desist?
ones that we were emailed about this past week, like
Oh,
the one
those-
on the, they were
Well, that's,
putting in
that's,
a-
that's under C is the enforcement. That's next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Any enforcement conversation?
okay. Now you can.
Now.
Now we're allowed to talk?
You're all right. Don't worry about it. You're good, Dory.
I think Village is coming before. Herster was one that I had started. We're waiting to hear back on that, and then was looking into the bus lot.
Mosswood.
Musterway, yeah. the-
42.
Musterway. Oh, and then you added Mr. Well, we haven't got
No, there was
correspondence
another
yet,
one. There was the dock and swim raft.
but- Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes, Musterway, 42.
40
Two.
and 42, both, yeah.
So,
Correct. Waiting
that
to
was
hear-
the one I had a question about, and maybe I missed it, but so somebody is building a dock and swim platform, so the town owns,
We own the water. We own the lake.
oh, okay.
So looking at the survey of the property line, now I did talk to Lori Zarenda, who's the property owner, and asked her if her surveyor would take a closer look at this, but based on what they've already submitted for all the work that's gone on out there as far as swapping land, and she did a subdivision. Clearly, it looks like the water is owned by the town, so it's got to come.
Okay.
And the only way I found out about it is our Public Works came over and said, hey, the dam had clogged with
Oh, no.
all the lily pads. And so I had pictures of all of this, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And so they were concerned that would create breaching potential, which, just as for the record, Darrow Pond is a Class A hazard dam, which means there's potential for loss of life if it could breach downstream.
Go right across the
So
road.
it's kind of important that it continues to function. So that said, someone graciously took some drone photos and sent them to me. Or put them on my desk. How's that? I don't know where they came from, but I have these photos. They're hard to dispute. Musterway Road, Darrow Pond. So we sent a letter out. Hopefully that'll solve the problem. I did briefly speak to Lori. She said it's not her dock or platform. However, the neighbor has an easement across her land to access the water. It goes right up to the property line. So my guess is that it's 42. And then I guess what will be discussed under correspondence, as part of my enforcement, I was going to report on the lot on Route 161 that had what looked like a former maybe filling station of some sort or farm stand a long time ago, had been abandoned. It was, my understanding, was ordered down to be condemned by the building official, and I think the zoning official also sent the landowner a letter indicating it was blighted. That said, no wetland permit was issued for it. I don't recall reviewing the demo permit for it. So that said, that the onus is on the landowner to obtain these permits, whether he's been ordered to demolish a structure or not. So it is his responsibility to obtain a wetland permit. I'm going to contact the landowner and advise them to stabilize the site and vegetate it. I don't think they have any intentions of building anything out there. But again, that's remains unseen, unknown, I don't know. But I can look into that. And, but assuming that's the case and they're not going to further develop that space, because it is pretty tight in terms of wetlands, it's just horseshoes on that. So that's where that stands. So that's an ongoing action.
This is that little like hut thing that's been run down on 161 there.
Yep, just after the intersection of Musterway Road and
Okay, okay.
Could we-
So it was demoed?
south on side.
Could we get the addresses on the agenda under the enforcement,
Yeah.
please? We could ask Jen to do that, or just so we can keep track of what's on and what falls off, you know, because otherwise it seems that we have, some of us know of the address, you know, and it's 40 and it's 42 and it's so on and so forth, and just that way we can kind of run through those items. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yep.
So we're
Yeah,
kind of
I agree.
transparent. I make a motion to put those addresses on the agenda as a regular behavior. Anyone in favor?
Second.
Second the motion. All in favor of the motion? Or any discussion, further discussion? No? All right. Motion. Doreen, is it your hand? Sorry, Dave? Is that your
Yeah,
hand?
mine.
Aye.
Yeah. So everyone's in favor. Thank you, guys. So we'd like to have our town staff put those on there. That would be helpful. Mo work. Thanks. Yeah, well, not you, Gary. Make someone else do it. And finally, item D, thank you for your patience. Anything else on enforcement? I don't want to blast by. We're done.
Other than Mr. Bialon's letter, which is somewhat addressed.
I just want to make sure we bring it in the correct method.
As we start a file on this property, we'll add this letter to that file.
Okay. We are naming this file.
I've got to get the address of the subject lot, which I don't know right up for now. It's
Currently near Pump House on Route 61. That make sense?
Yeah, I want to say it's 60-something Musterway Road. The house itself is on the other side of, it's not on, it doesn't front on 161, it's on Musterway Road.
Okay. So this correspondence can be moved into enforcement to our next meeting. And thank you very much for your letter to us. We'll make a further discussion of it next time we're here.
Absolutely. I'll
Yep.
continue our enforcement action.
All right, great. Anything else from anyone else on that before I do the next thing?
Yep.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn our meeting at 8:15, it says up there.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. What's
I
that?
missed the second.
Sorry, I was
Oh.
so moved. It was seconded by Don.
Yeah, second, maybe.
I saw you move or something.
Yeah, I did a gesture.